they have to compromise and moderate their views for the betterment of the people of the state of New York. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to support the elements of the pledge and the reform movement, but it certainly doesn't cast any aspersions on any other member. Each member has to do what they think is in their best interest, what they think is consistent with their views, and also consistent with the people they represent.
Well, that works for you, of course, because you're more moderate end of the Democratic scale, if you will. There are people, you're, for example, a lot less liberal than some of your colleagues who represent more downstate districts that are a far side more liberal. And it also puts you, interestingly, in line with Andrew Cuomo. You've been a longtime supporter of his. You actually supported him last time, I believe, in 2002 when he ran his failed bid for governor. And now you have him again running. What are you expecting the relationship of the legislature? He's running very hard against the legislature, against Albany, against special interests, against, you know, he says basically if the legislature doesn't sign his 5-point reform plan, there's sort of a plethora of these now, then they don't deserve to be in office.
Well, again, I think, Andrew Cuomo is giving voice to the frustrations that New Yorkers feel. I think that, and it's hard when you're a legislator and you really are truly care about the people in your district, you care about the fortunes of the state, people tend to be a little defensive about criticisms of the legislature. I try not to take that to heart because, frankly, there are a lot of metrics you could use which demonstrate that Albany and New York isn't doing as well as it could be doing and has done in the past. I mean, you certainly look at employment levels. You look at, particularly in upstate New York, population levels. You look at wage growth or the lack thereof. And you compare those against national averages, and people have a right to be frustrated. So I think we're like a team with great potential that isn't performing very well. We're not very high in the standings, and it's okay to call us out. And in a sense, I don't disagree with many of the things that Andrew said. I might not say it exactly the way he's saying it, but I'll also bet you this, that when he becomes governor in January, the conversation between he and the legislature is going to look less like the rhetoric you see now and more about bringing people together. That's not to discount what he says, but I think when it comes down to the, as I think his father used to talk about, the poetry of campaigning versus the prose of governing, there will be much more ability to have those conversations, bring people together, but to actually move forward with proposals and a budget that we can adopt, that we can move forward in a timely fashion and start to create some of the progress in the state that I believe we can do under a Cuomo administration.
The last time there was a guy who was running against the legislature to this degree, it was actually Eliot Spitzer, and you were a Spitzer guy. And that didn't go so well. The steamroller effect didn't go so well. You're saying that you believe that Andrew Cuomo is not going to adopt a steamroller approach and will have a better relationship with the legislature when and if, we should say, he's elected.
Well, I think anyone who would come in, and certainly someone who's as gifted and talented as Andrew and who understands, politics with a small p as well as Andrew does, is going to understand that the dynamic has to be a little bit different than it was in 2007. So we're going to have a governor and an administration who work with the legislature, can cajole the legislature, can push them when he feels as though they're not moving in a direction that the citizens of the state want. But also there's going to be, there has to be a great deal more collaboration than perhaps we saw at the beginning of the Spitzer administration. And I was very supportive of Governor Spitzer's agenda. I felt particularly his attention upstate and the economy of upstate and our difficulties was laudable, and was hopeful that that was going to work out. But I think in terms of style, I think Andrew Cuomo will work more with the legislature, but that doesn't mean he's not going to, obviously identify and give voice to those things that he feels the legislature is not doing appropriately. And there'll be times we clash. I don't think it's possible to have a governor and legislature not have points of tension in the relationship.
Might you be interested in a position in the administration? Should there be an administration?
I'm interested in being a member of the New York State Assembly with a new governor and really trying to move the state forward, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, well, we thank you very much for joining us. We'll be seeing you in Albany tomorrow, and safe travels. Thanks very much, Assemblyman Joe Morelle.